It has been so long since we had a episode on COZCAST podcast, and today we're going to bring you some soul.
Actually, we have recorded some, but somebody here didn't upload
I
it.
forgot what it was, but it was probably garbage.
Yeah, I don't think it was anything worth, posting about. But did you actually watch this movie, or is this another Shrek the Musical case?
I watched it.
Okay, good. See, I rewatched it, but then I fell
Uh-huh.
asleep. But I have watched it multiple times before, so I'm pretty sure I know what I'm talking about.
I've only seen the movie once, not too long ago, but it's still fresh in my mind, you know? The first thing I would like to say about Soul, the Pixar film, right?
Yes.
That every movie nowadays, like most movies, I shouldn't say every movies, but most movies, anytime I watch them, I kind of predict what's going to happen next. But Soul was everything was pleasantly subverted and different. Like I thought, okay, so the beginning of the movie, it's like a class, a band class. They're all playing their instruments, and the teacher's up there, Joe, right? And he's like up there, and for a second I thought I think it's a girl, the girl who's playing the trombone, I think that's what it is. I thought that would be the star.
Some trumpet instrument,
Yeah.
yeah. The star.
Yeah, I thought.
The
Yeah,
girl?
because I never seen any trailers or anything. It's the same girl that goes visit him later on in the film.
Yeah.
I thought she would be the star of the film, but no, it was the music teacher. I was like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna follow this dude, because a lot of kids movies don't follow kids unless you're talking about Shrek or Mater and Lightning McQueen and stuff like that. But usually they don't follow adults. Like usually it's like a teen or a kid. Kind of like how Inside Out or what's that, Brave. Those are like centered around like younger people.
Coco,
Coco,
another
The
Pixar
Book of Life,
movie.
kinda. It starts off with a kid, but and the
So you're surprised that it was a teacher?
yeah, no, I was surprised it was a teacher. Like a lot, there was a lot more things that surprised me that I was not expecting, except for one part. But we'll get to that part later. Um, I want to mention the art style. It's beautiful. Like this is a beautiful film.
Now I kind of wish that I didn't watch the trailer, and now I feel like I shouldn't watch trailers anymore and just go into movies not knowing anything.
I've been watching a lot of Pixar films lately, and a lot of them I've always heard about but never seen at all. Like one I watched review was Coco. I never saw that one until I saw a review, and
Makes me cry.
but so I want to ask one question. I wonder if you can answer this. Um, when he's like his spirit form, whatever you want to call it, how come he has glasses still?
I was wondering that while watching. I was like looking at the other blobs, and I was like, do they have like noticeable features? Well, it's not even features; it's just like
Yeah.
accessories, right? Because he also has his hat. So it's like, but like I didn't notice the other blobs.
Yeah, no, they don't have anything. Like his head, because like it's just his head, right, and like his little tiny body, but his head is like like a unique shape. Like we could tell without the glasses and hat, but I don't know. Maybe it was like something.
Well, because he's like surrounded by babies, and like since they don't really
Yeah.
like have personalities, is that why? But then when he's in the beginning, when he's like going
Yeah, the
up,
little-
right, and there's
Yeah,
other
just
adults.
the old lady and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice if they had anything.
No,
like
I don't think
that.
they did. I'm not sure if the old lady was just hunched over and she was holding a cane, but I don't think she was holding a cane.
I don't know. I already forgot.
Even animals have souls.
Like, it
'cause,
wasn't-
like the cat.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't noticeable enough for me to remember, but like his design is obviously
Uh-huh.
noticeable.
And I like that he's like a realistic body. You know, he doesn't have like a super buff guy or super skinny. He's like, he looks like a 30-year-old man, which he is, right? Um,
Is he 30? I think
he's
he's
like
older.
maybe early 40s. I think they do mention his age in the film.
Yeah, he's just an average
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, he is. Uh, when I said when I asked for movies to watch, and you said Soul, you said that it had like an important message, and can you explain what that message is?
Okay, so when this movie came out, it was 2020. What a better time to watch this movie than 2020. Like, everything was a mess, life was a mess, life was sad. I put this movie on, and I mean, I had already like struggled with these kind of thoughts, like, oh, what is the purpose of life? What's the purpose of my life? What am I
Mm-hmm.
doing here? And then I put on this movie, and I feel like so much like burden was like lifted off my shoulders, and I was like, oh, like just simply living your life, like that's enough. But we put all these expectations on ourselves to like be, I don't know, the best at everything when that isn't always possible. And I feel like it was just like a simple saying, like, oh, it's okay. And I felt like that's all I needed, especially at
Mm-hmm.
that time. And that's how I interpreted it.
Well, all
Interpreted
of that
it.
is very interesting because 22, which is the other main character within the film, is like searching for that purpose. While Joe already knows his purpose, but he wants to give his purpose reason, right? Like he's looking for, like, is my purpose
Mhm.
like? Well, he doesn't know this until like midway to in the film. Like, does my purpose really matter? Like, is it fulfilling? Is this truly what I want? Like, because music, he absolutely does love music, but he doesn't know what to do with that love, with that. Like, he doesn't know what direction to go. Meanwhile, 22 in the beginning of the film is like doesn't want to find her purpose. I'm gonna say her, even though they're technically like asexual, I guess. But they have a female voice,
or or or
agender,
agender,
yeah.
agender.
And so 22, it doesn't want to have a purpose, and then finally she gets to experience life through Joe, and we're gonna explain that in a minute. Well, people have probably seen the film, but um, she finds like, hey, I want to live, I want to see this, I want to do this, I want to do that, and she does get that reason. And so like they're two people at two points in their lives, right? One wants to get that life started,
Mhm.
while the other person has that life, has lived for a while, and wants to find like what's next for them. So that's interesting that it has like point A and point B in the film. Like you get to see kind of like if you reflect on yourself, like, oh, I was a little kid and I did this and I did that. I didn't worry about life. I just kind of lived, and that's kind of like
Yeah.
what the message is. It's just to live your life, but we forget about that later in our life. Like we get kind of jaded, kind of like Joe. Like we want something that we struggle, because he struggles, right? He wants to be like a famous piano player, like jazz player, and he's struggling. He goes to auditions, he does this and that, like he tries, he doesn't just like sit around, he tries, but he gets rejected, so that kind of like beats him down, right? But when he finally gets his chance, he tries everything to get it, and like and this whole situation when he switches bodies comes around. So can you explain that part where they switch bodies?
Yeah. I so so like you want me to explain them
Yeah,
switching
explain the plot a
bodies.
little.
So Joe, he
Mm-hmm.
dies, right? And he goes up to, what is it called? The beyond, the
Yeah.
great beyond. They don't call it heaven, but they do mention hell. but like what they're
They
saying
never
is
show
that
hell,
it
though.
isn't hell and it isn't
Yeah, yeah.
heaven. No, they don't. But you know, this is their form of the
Mm.
afterlife. And he freaks out. He's like, "Well, I'm not supposed to be dead. I just got this big gig that I've always wanted. You know, playing with this
Lady.
with
Yeah.
the singer."
I forgot her name.
And yeah, so did I. Oh, Dorothea something. Dorothea something. Anyway, he's like, "Well, I can't die. I just, you know, this is everything I work towards." So he does everything in his power to go back into his body. And that's how he meets 22, because 22, well, does she have a life? Like,
No. Like, she hasn't been born at all yet. Like, because, like, you know how you're in the beginning of the film, like, you see all the babies just kind of hanging around doing their thing. Well, she's like that, but she's been there for so long. She says thousands of years, but we don't really know. Because, like, apparently there's no time or anything up there. So, like, she's been up there for so long that she's kind of developed her own personality and not just like a dumb baby or anything. But yeah.
Dumb baby. Yeah, so in order to go to Earth and be born, they need to have like a check mark. And 22 is missing this one thing, which is her spark. But she's tried so many things, she doesn't know what her spark is. And because of that, she makes a deal with Joe. And if she's able to get her spark, then he'll be able to go down back to Earth with her. And how do they even end up doing that?
At first, they can't get 22 to get that spark, because 22 has apparently tried everything with the help of other mentors, and now it's Joe's turn. He kind of like fell into the role of being her mentor. And so they're trying everything to try and baking, music, and it gets to, well, they tried music last, but they tried baking, like making fireworks, doing these like creative stuff, and they tried music last. And 22 is, oh yeah, well, here, come in here, follow me. And 22 shows Joe this like pocket of space where people visit from Earth, like when they're in the zone, like when they're like so focused or something, or meditating even, they pop into this pocket of the universe. And this is also where the mindless souls hang out too, right? Like those grayed out creatures, they hang out there too. But anyways,
creepy looking.
Yeah, they come into play later. What's it called? They meet a bunch of mystics, and these like are people from around the world who like can like channel their energy, I guess. Like they don't really explain. They just say like, "Oh, I meditate. Oh, I play drums and this and that." And this one guy breakdances and flips a sign on the corner. That's his like way to get there. So they're like visiting in a way. They're like beyond in the zone. They're like complete focus meditation. But anyways, he gets the help of them to tear apart a hole in the universe, so he can jump back into his body that's in a coma. And before we get into that, I want to mention, because I do know that Joe dies, right? Like that's how he gets in his predicament. Well, he doesn't die, but I knew something like that happens. Yeah. So in the beginning of the film, I'm like, we're following him, and he keeps like almost getting hit by cars. Stuff almost falls on him. This and that happens, and I'm on the edge of my seat thinking like, how is he gonna die? Because like they keep teasing us with it, and I think just like that was like almost my favorite part of the film. But anyways, he falls into a dang manhole cover that's open. That's how he gets in his like. Well, he does die, but he's like in a coma on Earth. But his like, I guess as soon as his soul would cross over, he would die. But since his soul didn't do that, you know. Mm-hmm. Anyways, he's in the hosptal, and there's like a therapy cat on him that I don't know why. I guess it's supposed to like help him recover. But anyways,
a cat's gonna bring him out of the coma.
But anyways, he's like so excited to get back to his body that he jumps in, and he accidentally pulls 22 with him, and they both fall, and then Joe's eyes open, and he's a cat. And 22,
he's on top of himself.
Is inside Joe's body.
22 is in him.
Yes, don't get weird about it. 22 is still a baby.
And then... No, she's not. Well, technically, if time passes differently there, then she's a baby. Okay, anyway, so Joe learns about life through the perspective of a cat.
Well, he kind of watches...
And 22
He kind of watches how people react to him. Because when he goes to the barber to get his haircut fixed, the barber, like, and 22 talk about stuff more deeply than just, like, what Joe would talk to the barber with. Do you remember that scene? Mm-hmm. And so he's, like, looking like...
He's, like... The barber's like, oh, you never asked me about this
about his
before.
life, yeah. And so, like... Yeah, he gets like a new perspective on life and how he fits in the world, and I think that's just awesome.
Does he? 22 stands up to his mom, right? Like
they kind of both in a way, cause like in like what's it called? He whispers in her ear, and then like 22, I guess, kind of goes on her own tangent, like away from what Joe is telling her, and like there's like a sweet moment of the mom saying that music's my life, this is what I want to do, even if I can't eat or whatever, even if I can't sleep, I still want to play music, even if it makes him poor.
Wow. Do you feel as passionate about something like to that extent?
I never thought about it. I at a time, maybe one time when I was doing like sports and stuff, like wrestling and stuff like that, but recently, no.
I feel like I'm kind of like Joe. Like back then, I felt like I needed something like so profound to help me go on, but now I'm like, oh, I'm looking forward to, I don't know, eating a cupcake tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that new movie coming out. I'm looking forward to reading that book. Like, it's just like little things that I look forward to now.
I think everyone needs that.
And then, and like the whole thing, like Joe did all this, okay? He dealt with being in a cat's body just to go back into his own so he can do this performance with this singer that he's dreamed about doing. And, how do they switch back? Do you want to explain that?
So there's this accountant in the Great Beyond. Well, just before the Great Beyond, he keeps track of everyone who crosses over, and he has like these I forgot what they're called. Like it's like a bead on a stick thing. Abacus. It's an abacus he's using, and he notices like there's one off, and that one off is Joe because he didn't go in. He fell off the moving thing that they're on. So he hunts down Joe, he goes around, and he finally catches up to them just at the climax of the film where 22 wants to run off with Joe's body, and so Joe's chasing 22, and they run into this like tunnel thing, and the accountant lays a trap, and the accountant is named Terry. I don't know. I'm just gonna call him the accountant, and he traps them. He gets Joe and 22 back into the other universe thing, and he like rips them both out of their bodies, like the souls out of the bodies, and the Jerrys. What is it? Oh no, wait, that's a little bit ahead. 22 gives Joe the pass that she is supposed to use to get born. That thing that keeps track of all the check marks. And she finally found her spark, but she knows how much that Joe wants to get back to Earth. She gives up her chance and goes off on her own to become one of those lost souls.
Why am I crying just thinking about it?
I thought the film would end there, by the way. And so Joe flies back to his body and wakes up for real, legitimate. And he goes and he performs, and he's once the performance is over, he doesn't feel different. He feels the same. right? Like he wanted it, he wanted it, he wanted it. He got it,
Mm-hmm.
but he just
And just
yeah,
silence
silence. Like
after.
after the music stopped, it was just silence. It's this great silence, and just like this whole scene where he's talking to the musician lady. I don't even want to recount that part because like her metaphor, I feel is kind of dumb. Um,
You think
yeah, I
it's
think it's
dumb?
dumb. I understand the point, but like I think it's dumb. Do you want to recite the metaphor?
I heard this story about a fish. He swims up to this older fish and says, "I'm trying to find this thing they call the ocean." "The ocean," says the older fish. "That's what you're in right now." "This," says the younger fish, "this is water. What I want is the ocean."
Which is dumb.
But it's like, I mean, I guess, like, I
No,
understand both
yes,
sides.
yes.
Like,
It applies to him, yes. Like, you know, in his.
you're in the ocean.
It's not what he expected. Yeah, like this. It's just not what he expected, and he thought it would be more. It's kind of like the grace is greener on the other side, but it's not. It's just
Yeah.
like it's new and shiny, but it's really the same old thing.
That's what like growing up kind of feels like.
Exactly.
Like when I was younger, I just wanted to be older, and now that I am, I'm like, I just wish I
feel
was
like
a kid.
I feel like that's like the subtext of the film. Like that's 22's journey. She's the kid, of course, and Joe's the wizard,
Mhm.
the wizened old man. He's like, he's already because like there's the other part where that's not a spark. That's just regular old living that he tells 22, right? Because like 22 is
Yeah.
like, oh, I want to breathe the air. I want to eat more pizza. I want to do this and that. I want to go for a walk. And Joe's like, that's not a spark. That's not a purpose. That's just regular old living. But you gotta see it from a child's eyes, like seeing a rainbow for the first time. I don't remember seeing a rainbow for the first time, but I remember, I know that a rainbow is like a special, unique thing. And yeah, I mean, like it's just like a thing that a child
Yeah,
will
I
see.
see that. I see that with my siblings, especially the youngest one, because he's so curious about everything, and I'm like, wow, that's just something that's there to me all the time.
Yeah.
But to him, it's like, oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. But
So 22 is a baby.
22 is a baby. I think it works because even though 22 is like knowledgeable, she's not knowledgeable about human life, just living. Like she knows of like elevators and that people walk and that cities are, people live in cities, but she doesn't know how an elevator works, like how to press a button or how to even walk at the beginning, or how a city smells and how a city sounds like, because she gets overwhelmed in the beginning with like all the crowds and the sights and noises and this and that, and she has like a panic attack and like runs and curls up into a ball, kind of like a child when they're experiencing something new, like something overwhelming. So it's
Yeah.
pretty crazy. But anyways, along with the film, oh yes, Joe performs. He feels the same about it. He goes home. He starts playing piano. He begins to meditate while playing the piano. That's his thing that he does. So he becomes a mystic in a way, and he comes back and he's like, he kind of regrets what he did, right? And I think this diminishes his sacrifice later on in the film that we're going to talk about. But he wants to make things right, so he goes back to hunt down 22, and he gets shown by the crazy breakdancing man where to find 22. And so they capture her, or try to capture her. And do you remember what happens next?
Is this when she becomes that creature?
Yeah,
thing?
she like goes on a rampage.
So, like, what I don't understand. Like, she's upset, but Like, she gave up her little badge thing,
Mm-hmm.
but she's upset about it,
Yeah.
right? So she becomes this creature, and she, like, I don't remember what Joe tells her, but she's like repeating something that
Yeah.
he said.
It's basically like intrusive thoughts, like, oh, you're the worst. You'll never find your spark. It's like all these things that people have told her, and she's told herself. Like, you're an idiot, you're a moron. And like, yeah, like, she's just thinking all these nasty thoughts. That's what's going on in that scene. And Joe's trying to get to her, like, through the hurricane, basically, of bad thoughts that she's having.
And then what happens?
And then she gets out of her funk. And Joe gives her back the pass and says, like, this is yours, whatever. I forgot exactly what he says, but she's like hesitant to look down because they're on the rim of this big circle that looks down at Earth, and they're like, she doesn't want to go, right? She's like hesitant still. So
she's scared.
Joe offers to go down with her, as far as he can, because he tried before and he got sucked back up. But anyways, so they hold hands, they fly down, and like, I just want to feel like this is like, okay. Before we get back to this, Joe realized. Well, what do you think Joe's purpose is? Because he realizes this when he's back home playing the piano. Like, do you know what his purpose is?
I feel like the message is that, like, there is no grand purpose. Like, the little things are enough. Like okay, like, playing piano is his thing. That's what makes him happy. But his whole reason for being isn't to play the piano. Yeah.
Yes. Like, you shouldn't, like, do this. You shouldn't do this one thing because you think it's what you're meant to be doing, right? Like, I felt like, because, like, I thought about it, like, the other day, like, again, like, to me, I feel like his purpose is to teach others, right? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because, like, he teaches in the beginning of band class, and then that one girl who comes to his apartment or whatever.
Wait.
What?
Oh, never mind.
And then
I was gonna say it's weird. I was gonna say it's weird that she knows where he lives, but I forgot that he does lessons there at his house. Anyway, moving on.
And then he teaches 22 how to live, basically. And he teaches his mother, like, that, it's okay to let her son do this thing that's, like, not secure, like a regular job is. And he also teaches he teaches the, what's it called, the musical lady, like, hey, not to overlook someone who dresses down, who doesn't dress nicely or act a certain way. But yeah, no, I think, like, you can really pull anything from this film, because, like, it does have so many messages just, like, tucked into it that it kind of, like, shotguns you with, like, just, like, lessons of life, basically. That's part of the reason why it's so good. But anyways, so they're flying down, they're holding hands. They're like, they have their arms stuck out to the sides, and they're flying down, and they look at each other.
I mean, Joe is basically, like, giving birth to 22.
I wouldn't say it that way. I think it's more of an encouragement of, like, yeah, I guess, like, he's kind of like a surrogate father in a way, but because, like, I don't know, like, they do definitely have that feel of, like teacher and student, or master and apprentice kind of thing, or mentor and apprentice, that, because he is the mentor of 22. Like, you definitely get that feel from them, and not, like, even friendship, but there's, like, a certain feel.
Yeah.
So 22 goes down to get birthed, and he goes back up, and he's like ready to accept his death. But we forgot to mention these guys, but the Jerrys come and save the day. The Jerrys are basically like the people who are responsible, or not people, but beings that are responsible for like giving people personalities and making sure that people go to the great beyond when it's time. Just like keep your things in order, basically. Make sure like they're like employees in this big old machine. So the Jerrys give him a second chance, and he wakes up in his house. It's a brand new morning. He goes out, so he opens the door, he breathes in, he breathes out, and the movie ends. You told me something that I thought should have happened, and what was that thing?
I wanted him to die.
Apparently that was the original plan, right? But Disney thought it was too sad or whatever.
Yes. Which, I mean, I do like the ending where he just steps out and he, you know, takes a breath, and that's how it ends. Like, it's really optimistic, but, like, I feel like it would have been more, like, profound had he died.
Like, it would have given...
And that gives a message.
It would have given his sacrifice a more meaning to it.
Yeah, like, hey, don't take what you have for granted.
Yeah, like, it
but...
It made it
because like in real life we're not going to get a second chance like he does.
Mm-hmm. That is kind of another thing, like another subtext thing, that he keeps getting chances and he doesn't waste these chances. He uses them to the fullest. Like he gets a second chance to audition, he gets a second chance at life, he gets a second chance with his mother, you know, like to prove that this is what he wants. He gets like a second chance a few times in the film. But yeah, like it turns his sacrifice into a gesture, you know, like a gesture of like, hey, 22, I'm giving up this so you can have your life. You know, it kind of demeans it in a way. I think he should have died. It would have been, and plus it would have been more emotional. Like I want to see like him fly down with 22. And then he kind of just like fades away or something. Not even like crossover. I think that would have been more impactful. And then like we get to see 22 fly down and get birthed, and that's where the movie ends. That would be like absolute like top frosting on the cake.
It could have ended with 22 taking a breath, but I don't know how they would like
it could have just like been.
I don't know how they would animate her as a human though.
It could have just been like a baby, because a baby is also like ambiguous, like the gender, you know, you can just look like a baby and not really know its gender. They could have like wrapped it in a white blanket and like passed it over to the mom or something, and it could have been like a baby like taking in like their first breath in like a cry or a giggle or something, you know.
I want that ending.
That would have been it would have been so great. Like Joe is a good guy and all, but he's kind of a dick. He is in the beginning.
I mean, also he also got the second chance with his barber friend. Like, he didn't even care to ask about the barber. Mm-hmm. That's pretty rude.
That's like a new friendship, right there. Yeah, like he kind of lived for himself, but he learned to live for others as well. Like that's another message you can pull out from the film.
Yeah, I just think I don't watch it too often, like clearly, because I don't really remember everything that happens. But like, I cried so hard the first time I watched it.
Psst, you girl. I didn't watch the film.
What?
I didn't watch the film.
What? You're such a liar.
I just made all that stuff up.
No, you did not.
For real? I just made all that stuff up. I don't have no idea what happens.
No.
No, I gave up too much information.
Too detailed. Yeah, too detailed. If it was like the Shrek thing, oh my goodness.
I have to rewatch
I don't know
that
how
one.
you pulled that off.
Yeah, because I don't remember what I said. Like, I probably did give vague answers. And you probably did most of the explaining.
I did.
That's probably what happened.
I did. You were just like agreeing with me on everything. You're like, oh yeah, I like that song too. And I was like, oh, we have the same taste. But you played it off well. But yeah, Soul's a great movie. It's okay not to. There's also this BTS song. No, sorry to mention them, but they have a song that's literally like, "It's okay to not have a dream," because I mean, not everyone has a dream, and I feel comforted by that fact.
When I'm stuck with a dead